years, or last year, Coach Meade was introduced as the first men's coach at Furman University. He's a 35-year veteran of collegiate coaching. He served as the head coach of the United States Naval Academy from 1994 to 2011, where he led the midshipmen to 142-97 record. And he'll never say this, but since he's left, Navy has yet to have, I think, a winning season since he has left. So, for what it's worth, I keep track of that. Coach Meade compiled 160-220 career record. He was at the University of Baltimore. He was named the head coach of the U.S. men's national senior team by U.S. Lacrosse in December. He is the 12th head coach in the history of the men's senior team program, and he led Team USA, as I think many of you guys know, last summer in the International Lacrosse Championship in Denver. During Coach Meade's head coaching tenure at Navy, his teams claimed 5 Patriot League regular season and tournament titles. They appeared in 7 NCAA tournaments and racked up 39 All-American citations. In 2004, Navy advanced in the national championship game. Coach Meade was honored with the Morris Touchdown Memorial Award as the National Coach of the Year. He was also twice named the Patriot League Coach of the Year in 2004 and 2007. Coach Meade began his coaching career as an assistant at Duke University in 1977. Following a 2-year stint in Durham, he moved on to the University of North Carolina, where he served as an assistant for 1 year before accepting his first head coaching job at the University of Baltimore. In 1984, he was named defensive coordinator at Navy before returning to Chapel Hill in 1989 through 1990 for a 2-year stint as the offensive coordinator. He accepted the same post as well as an instructor's role in physical education at the United States Military Academy in 1991. I'm not sure why he did that, but he did. Sam likes that, right? So, he's remaining there for 3 seasons before returning to Navy as a head coach in 1994, becoming the 7th lacrosse mentor in school history. In addition to his coaching duties with the midshipmen, he has also served as a tenured professor of physical education and a senior fellow at the Vice Admiral James B. Stockdale Center for Ethical Leadership at the Naval Academy. And by the way, Coach Meade coached, when he was coaching physical education, he coached boxing at the Naval Academy, which is pretty interesting. So he has served the sport in a variety of administrative positions, including the U.S. Intercollegiate Lacrosse Association Rules Advisory Committee, U.S. Lacrosse Men Coaches Council, NCAA Rules and Equipment Committee. Since 2005, he's been the president of the Intercollegiate Men's Lacrosse Coaches Association, and over the last 2 years has served as the executive director of the Wounded Warrior Project for Lacrosse. A native of Williston Park, New York, Coach Meade attended and plays lacrosse at Nassau Community College and then transferred to the University of North Carolina, where he graduated with a BA degree in 1976 with a degree in Parks and Recreation Administration. He later added an MS from UNC in 1979. Coach Meade's a member of both the New York Metropolitan Lacrosse Hall of Fame, the University of Baltimore Athletic Hall of Fame, and he and his wife Sue have 3 daughters, Jillian, Shannon, Grace, and Cassidy. So, with all that said, please welcome Coach Meade.
I don't know how to do this. You guys hear me? Yeah.
Push the button once and it'll go green.
I want to tell you how I met Coach Wayman. I was a new assistant coach at the Naval Academy, drove down from Baltimore. I was living there, and I walk into the lacrosse office, and there's 9 guys. There's 9 guys like him, just graduated from the Naval Academy, and they're all sitting around like on couches, doing nothing. So I walk in, and I'm like, they're all laughing, you know. I don't know if you know Rich's personality, but it's interesting. So I walk in and I go like, being me, I go like, what do you guys do? And he looks at me and smiles and goes, we're in the Navy. And that's what we do. I was asked to talk a little bit about culture on teams, but I'd like to tell you a story before we get into that. So if you just bear with me, September 21st of 2010, started out just like every other day for me. And I know that all of you have a routine in the morning, and you wake up, and you talk to your kids, you get your kids ready. Well, I'm the same way. I was at the Naval Academy, and I wake up and my brain's popping. I'm thinking about what we have to do today. I had 2 boxing classes in the morning. We had our meeting with our coaches, and then we had a recruit on campus. And I'm listening to Fox News, having my coffee, and all of a sudden, just like something pops through the air that 9 United Nations peacekeepers have been killed in a helicopter crash. And if you work where I work, you pay attention to that. So I think about it, but I keep moving forward. I'm going on, and I'm in the middle of my first class, and I get a call, not a call, a text, and I look at it, and it says Andrew Dow has broken his neck in a helicopter crash in Afghanistan. So I'm like, shit, right? And I just keep going, right? So I called Ben Daly. Andrew Dow was the captain of our 2007 Navy Lacrosse team. And so I'm concerned, right? So I called Ben Daly, his teammate from Memphis University Schools, lieutenant. He's the suppo for Group 1 down in Virginia Beach, which is the supply guy for all the SEAL teams down there. And I call him, I don't get him. I said, Bales, it's Coach. Get to me, let me know how Dow is, right? Because he's going to know. So the day moves on, we're getting all sorts of calls. People are going, now it's starting to get around. And finally, 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I was in the Commandant's office. Can't really go into why. One of the geniuses didn't do what he was supposed to do. And I got a call on the cell phone, and it's Ben Daly, class of 2004. He goes, Coach, Dow's okay. I was like, great, right? I was like, great. He was very, very professional. He says, but there's something else. And I go, what? He goes, I saw the manifest in the commanding officer's office, and it says KIA, Lieutenant Brendan Looney. I was like, Bales, that can't be true. Okay? He says, Coach, I'm looking at it. So I'm trying to figure out what's Brendan Looney, who's the commanding officer of Alpha Platoon of SEAL Team 3, which is a West Coast SEAL team, on a helicopter with Andrew Dow, commander of Alpha Platoon of SEAL Team 4, which is an East Coast team. Like, what are they doing together? Brennan was at the end of a deployment, which I knew, and Andrew had just gotten it. And what he was doing on that helicopter has a lot to do with us. It has a lot to do with what we're trying to create on our team. Because at the end of the day, right, the most compelling thing we can do to be successful is build leaders. So if somebody asks me, Coach, what's your job? I gotta win games. Furman University has not put all the resources they put into our lacrosse program to not win. But the question becomes how. So when they ask me, what's your plan? I looked at them, I said, I build leaders. That's what I try to do. Because if we build leaders, everything else will follow. Okay, and leaders, coaches up here before talking about what we're looking for. We're looking for leaders. All right? We're looking for people and leaders solve problems. I don't care if it's an academic problem, if it's a social problem, if it's a lacrosse problem. Leaders solve problems. Okay? They listen, they calculate, they come up with a plan, and they accomplish the mission. That's what we try to do. So going back to my story, Ben Bailey has just told me Brendan Looney's been killed in a helicopter crash. I'm on the East Coast in Annapolis. I don't know if everybody else knows. Okay, I don't know. Because I got the information right from the guy who's top secret information, from the guy that's the commander of the East Coast SEAL team. All right, so now I have a dilemma. Do I call the loonies? So I wound up calling the loonies, and of course, everybody found out. What I want to talk about is who Brendan Looney was, all right, and what he was doing on that helicopter. Because what he was doing on that helicopter had nothing to do with the training he received at the Naval Academy. It had nothing to do with the training he received from the lacrosse program. It had everything to do with his life, how he grew up, the family he was in, and the people that influenced him. Okay? And then after that, after we talk about that a little bit, I'm going to show you what we came up with to judge leadership. Alright? Because we all have, you know, coaches talk about how do we evaluate stick work? How do we evaluate all this other stuff? Okay, how do we evaluate courage? All these intangible things that we're all looking for. Leadership is not something that you're born with, in my opinion. You learn everything. All right, you're in situations and you learn everything. So what I'd like to do today, before we're done, is define leadership for you, okay? And then talk about our part in leadership development. So Brendan is at the end of a deployment, a four-month SEAL deployment. And ironically, about a week before I got this news, I had said to my wife, I go, you know, percentages aren't very good right now. It's really heating up over there. They're getting a lot of fights. They're getting in a lot of fights. The SEALs are deploying and they're fighting, and so are the Marines. So with all the guys that we have over there, the percentages aren't good. Okay, and that turned out to be good. So Brendan is at the end of his deployment, and Andrew Dow is relieving him, ironically. Andrew Dow is 3 years younger, and it's Billy Looney, Brendan's brother and best friend. All right? Andrew's a SEAL. He's got his platoon. He's fresh to Afghanistan. They did a couple months of training, and now they're going to transition SEAL Team 3 Alpha Platoon from the West Coast out, and SEAL Team 4 Alpha Platoon from the East Coast in. And their first mission is going to be what they call a meet and greet, right? So they had this tribal leader in this village in Afghanistan that they were going to go talk to, and excuse me. So Andrew's going to bring his guys, 9 helicopters. They're deploying out, they're moving out, and Brendan decides to get on the helicopter and go with him. The night before, he's going home. So he's going home the next day. All right? Andrew gets on the helicopter, right? And Brendan Looney says, instead of wishing him, I have a picture of the two of them giving me the other 45 minutes before the crash. All right? And most of us, and most kids we coach, would have shaken his hand and said, good luck, man. They weren't supposed to fight. It was a benign thing. They were going in just to meet this guy. Why does Brendan get on that helicopter? Because that's who he is. Okay? That's exactly who he is. He's the type of guy to make sure one of his guys, one of his teammates, is taken care of. He didn't learn that at Bugs. If you want to reflect back 4 or 5 years before that, we're stretching before practice at the Naval Academy, and Bridget Looney, who was the oldest of the Looney girls, there's 3 boys, 3 girls. Bridget, by the way, was the best lacrosse player of all of them, and 2 of them were all Americans. Bridget went to Syracuse. She was going out on a date. Okay? Bridget was going out on a date, and this was the topic of stretching before practice. Stephen and Billy were boasting. Right? Brendan really never said anything. He would annihilate you in practice, by the way. The first practice he was ever at, Billy Looney was ever at, Brendan knocked him unconscious. That'll give you a little bit of background. So, Billy's going, Coach, we checked this guy out. We know what high school he goes to. We know everything about him, all this stuff. I was like, that's awesome, you know. And I see Brendan, he just looks at me like this. So after practice, Brendan puts on his uniform, gets in his car, drives an hour to Silver Spring, Maryland. He's sitting in the living room when this poor guy walks in. Okay? So he meets Mrs. Looney. Hi, how you doing? I'm Johnny so-and-so. Meets Mr. Looney. Hi, how you doing? I'm Johnny so-and-so. This is my brother, Brendan. Okay? How many push-ups can you do? That's what he asked. So the point is, most of us would have just said, yeah, we call somebody, we check this guy out. That wasn't good enough for him. Okay? For Brendan Looney, he was going to look in the guy's face that was going to take his sister out. Now fast forward. Andrew Dow is getting on a helicopter on his first mission. At that point, there's no way that Brendan Looney is letting that guy get on that helicopter and not going with him. So the point is, why? What made him that leader? And a lot of it has to do with atmosphere, okay? A lot of it has to do with habit and our expectations. Can we turn our thing on? Go to the next slide, please. Oh, no. There you go. All right. So, what I want to focus on is this section on the right for right now. And this concept was developed at the Naval Academy. Richie mentioned that I was involved in the Stockdale Center, and I was tasked with working with a group of people to develop a team captain leadership program. You know, we had, believe it or not, we had several commercial leadership. These guys are leadership teachers. You know, they run programs and everything else to develop leadership. So, you know, you can imagine at the Naval Academy, hey, we'd like to teach you about leadership. So there were guys going, no, we're going to do it ourselves. So this program revolves around three things. The concept of loyalty, the concept of standards, and then the concept of action. And I'll talk about all of them, okay? Because they're very pertinent to all of us. If I ask everybody on your team, who are you loyal to? Who's your loyalty to? How many people, by show of hands, think they would say, my teammates? Right? Almost everybody. He's my teammate. I would argue with that. Okay? There's two things I want to reach out to you right now. Okay, and just talk about. Number one, I don't believe in leadership by example. I think it's a fallacy. He gets straight A's. He's the first guy on the field. He's in class every single day. Never gets in trouble. All right? Always on time. That makes him or her Mr. or Miss Wonderful. That's what it makes them. It does not make them a leader. Leadership is a contact sport. It involves interaction with other people. All right? So going back to my question of you're loyal to your teammates, my team is not loyal to their teammates. My team is loyal to the standards of our team. And the key to all of this is to get your teammates or the kids on your team to understand the standards are more important than the loyalty to my friend. Because when I'm loyal to my friend, okay, and he drinks 800 beers on Friday night and gets into trouble and asks me not to say anything, that's not loyalty. That's deceit. That rips your program apart. Okay? So we want our guys loyal to the standards. We're responsible for the standards. We're coaches, we're responsible. It's not a democratic society. Okay, all of us, everybody's got some pressure. We got administration, we got parents, we got people that think, what's fair? I don't care what's fair. I care about leading my lacrosse program. Okay, I take responsibility for everything that happens in the Furman lacrosse program, and I lead. Okay, leadership and leading is difficult. All right, I make the standards. I decide where your socks are when you come out to practice. Okay, I decide that. Now, some of you think that's crazy, right? But yeah. I mean, you heard my background. I grew up on Long Island. Okay? So, that's a standard of ours. And here's why we do it. We want to start to teach our players how to have the interaction with other players to maintain standards. There's something that governs that interaction. Okay? So there's going to be interactions every day. There's going to be interactions all the time if you don't make standards. All right? So I actually have a PowerPoint that says, look, when you come out to practice, this is where your deal is. This is where your socks are. All right? It's not my responsibility. I don't want to be the only asshole. Okay? I don't let guys wear their hats backwards. You know? So, coach, what does wearing my socks above my ankles have to do with being a good player? Nothing. Nothing. It's an indication that you're willing to think and sacrifice to do something for the team. What difference does it make if I have my hat on backwards? Nothing. I don't want our program projected that way. That's me. I make that standard. The other thing we tell our guys is this. Your standards, your personal standards are what you allow in your presence, not only what you do. So you can't, well, I didn't do anything. Yeah, you were there. You were there. You didn't take action. Okay? So part of this is starting to maintain standards, and then being willing to take action. Because standards are important. Standards are ours. It's a we. I tell them all the time, no, that's what we do. Why do you have your socks up? That's what we do. Why don't you let them wear their hats backwards? That's what we do. It isn't an I, it's a we. Okay? And so what we're trying to do is develop that type of thought process. What do we do? Okay? We tell our guys in practice, we basically break down a lacrosse player into three things. Technical skills, tactical skills, and personal skills. We're going to get a lot of talk about technical stuff. How you throw, how you catch, how you defend, all those types of stuff. Tactical stuff. How do we play offense? How do we play defense? Coach mentioned it before. Your systems. They're all meaningless. Okay? Unless you have leadership and followership. So one of the other things that we stress to our players is we want you to be a good teammate and a good team leader and assume either role when appropriate. So let me give you the example. I'm coming out and I got my socks up here on day one because I grew up in West Genesee. Right? And so I'm now an older kid on the team and I say, Richie, come here. Put your socks in the right spot. Only one or two things can happen. The way that I approach that individual, the tone I use, that's a leadership function. I, as the person initiating that contact, I gotta know that guy. I gotta know if that guy, you know, or that girl grew up on Long Island, getting in their face, for example, probably isn't gonna work. Because almost everybody from Long Island initially thinks everybody else in the world's an asshole until they prove it. It's the exact opposite of everybody else in the world. Everybody else in the world accepts everybody unconditionally, except if you're from Long Island, for example. So if I approach that individual, I have to know how to approach that, right? And then they have to know this is a leadership interaction. And a leadership interaction on a team is different than you being my friend. You can be my friend if we're roommates, but that relationship changes the minute we step on the field. Because now it's business. Now it's a teammate relationship. And very few of us define that. We assume that's going to happen, yet we don't define it. You're not friends on a team. You're teammates. You have responsibility and accountability. I just had this conversation the other day. I saw 3 guys driving on a moped, right? And to practice. Yeah. They're morons. Right? You're not allowed to put 3 guys on a moped and 3 guys with no helmets on a moped, barely alive, driving, right? So I get into their face a little bit. We go downstairs to the locker room, and I'm like, listen, let me explain this to you, okay? Your body belongs to me. Your body belongs to all of us. You're on a team, okay? So you're driving on the back of the moped. You're our starting pole. You fall off the moped, or you put your foot down, right? Blow your knee out or blow your ankle out, or bash your face against a tree. All right, and you're out. You've hurt our team. That wasn't a leadership decision. That was a selfish decision. Coach, we didn't think it was gonna, we didn't. Of course you didn't think that. You're 18. You don't think anything. I think. But this is what happened. I didn't think. Right? So we never had the conversation of, your body belongs to me. Don't tell me, I'll give you another one. 2 of my guys at Navy, guy comes back, I sprained my knee. What, how? We went surfing in Australia. That's pretty cool. Tell everybody you meet you went surfing in Australia, right? Why did you go surfing in Australia? Well, it's Australia. Yeah, but you hurt your knee, now you're going to be late for practice. Don't go surfing. Don't ski. Coach, come on. We're just going to go skiing. Yeah, you're going to go skiing. You're a lacrosse player. You play at the Division I level, and we depend on you. So we need you to think. Don't think about what isn't going to happen. Think about what is going to happen. All right? So these things, right, the concept of loyalty and the concept of standards. Here's the other thing I want to suggest to you. I don't have to be fair. Ooh. I don't have to be fair. I have to lead my team. I got to develop individuals to be leaders. I don't need to be fair. I need to accomplish that mission. All right? Sometimes it's difficult. Here's my great fear. And we tell this to every single guy we recruit, by the way. My greatest fear is what we promise the guys that we recruit. Number 1, we're going to make you the best lacrosse player we can be. You can be. Number 2, we're going to make you a leader. That's it. You don't get to choose your favorite number. You don't get the ball on offense. That's my job. We figured that out. I tell you what your number is. All right? I know it sounds really like hard ass, all that stuff. Why would I have a conversation with an individual about what number he wants? Why would I do that? Why would I establish a relationship with a young man, we talked about something so trivial as a number. But you know, if I have number 16, I'll really feel good. I don't care about that. Are you telling me you can't play well and be number 19? I got some questions about that. Okay? So what we're trying to do is, we're trying to establish in our program what the standard is. So the guys, you know, should I go ask him? Yeah, go ask him. Go ask him to be number 15. All right, so you have to be understanding that they're doing that. All right? Loyalty, standards, and action. You decide what the standards are based on your program, your environment, and what you feel like is appropriate. Okay? The thing is, if you make standards, you have to enforce them. More than that, you have to help your team develop the opportunity to enforce it themselves. Because when they enforce little standards like socks, what we want is, what we had, we started to talk about this at Navy, right? Once a week we meet General Sadler. General Sadler commanded all combat troops in Afghanistan, the Marines. He was awesome. We had the psychologist, the sports psychologist, the chemistry teacher, the head of leadership. We all sat around the table. What is the goal of this program? What do we want to do? And General Sadler just wants to develop Marines. That's all he cares about, right? Psychologist wants to make sure that, you know, the interactions of the team all are appropriate so we can get that good feeling and, you know, move out. The chemistry professor wants to make sure that, you know, the grades are good and all that stuff. Coach, what's your goal? I want to make sure none of my players pee on Main Street at 2:30 in the morning Saturday night. That's my goal. And here's the reason why. Okay? When that happens, or if that happens, our entire organization isn't focused anymore about beating Johns Hopkins, or beating Mercer, or beating the next team. All right? So if you imagine this, over here is our team, and over there is our goal. And to get to where we are there to there is a straight line. Okay? It's a straight line. And it's tough enough as it is, right? Somebody's going to blow their knee out. Somebody's going to get hurt. You know, somebody's going to have a problem. So we're walking on this straight line. All of a sudden, some guy pees in the middle of Main Street, and we're not on that straight line anymore. We've got an issue. We got to deal with it. I'm in a position where I got to be the leader. I got to lead. I got to figure out what happened. I got to talk to 800 guys, then figure out, am I throwing this guy off the team, which half the locker room's going, that's too harsh? Am I not throwing him off the team, where half the locker room thinks that's not hard enough? Now we got a divided team. So I would suggest to you, handling that is just as important as what offense you play. Because at that point, right after that, nobody cares about playing offense anymore. They just want to know, is he going to get thrown off the team or not? What do you think he's going to do? We're not talking about the next game. We're not talking about aspiring to excellence. We're distracted. Okay? Now, my goal is before that guy did that, somebody comes up to him and he's learned how to have a leadership conversation with his teammate. Number one, I'm not going to deal with what's he doing in a bar and he's not 21 years old. I'm not going to deal with that issue. I'm going to deal with the issue at hand. Stop him. Stop him or her from making that poor decision. How do we do that? We talk about having a leadership conversation. We talk about standards, and they're important. I tell my team, if you're not 21 years old, you cannot drink alcohol. I did, by the way. When I grew up, it was 18. In my neighborhood, on Saturday night, in the 70s. It was the reenactment of the movie Caligula. They don't have that. Okay? If you're 21, you can drink alcohol, but you are responsible for your behavior and you are responsible for standards. Okay? And, you know, if you want to know, at the collegiate level, we did a study of this, 90% of the problems happen because of alcohol. But, you know, we don't go like, hey, you can't do that. You know, we just had a couple of beers. Yeah, you just had a couple of beers, under 21, in a bar, and you didn't account for the freaking maniac who's hammered that just cocoa butted you in the face and put 12 stitches above your eye. Now you've got to go to the hospital, okay? Now we've got half the team knowing what happened, and they're wondering, am I going to find out? And if I do find out, what am I going to do? We're not going straight at our goal right there. We're like this. If you miss, everybody's done geometry. If you're off by 1 degree, you miss your goal. So this is the philosophy of this. Okay? This is a group. This is a group together. All right? Loyalty, standards, and action. Think about it. Okay? On the left, these are some of the things that I learned. One of the great things that happened to me. I was asked to be a senior fellow at the Stockdale Center. I had no idea what that meant. I was brought in as a coach. You're a good leader. We want your perspective. You hear that, senior? They just want you to sit around and say, this is what I think. So you got all the people I told you about, and then they wanted the jock in here, right? Who had all the practical situations that nobody else had, right? But one of the things that happened was a man named Chris Lowney, who wrote a book called Heroic Leadership. You might want to write it down. Okay? So heroic leadership, basically, this guy Chris Lowney was a Jesuit seminarian. He went to Regis High School in New York. Anybody from New York knows and understands. Regis High School is like, you know, Archbishop Malloy High School have a great basketball team. Regis High School like trains Templar Knights. Okay? So Chris Lowney went to Regis High School. He graduated, went to Fordham University. He was a seminarian in the Jesuit order of the Catholic Church. They sent him to MBA school. At the end of MBA school, he graduates and says, I'm out. I don't want to do it. I don't want to become a Jesuit priest. So the Jesuits say, have a good life. So he goes to Goldman Sachs and makes like $1 bazillion million. Okay? And he researches and writes a book and looks at the Jesuit order of the Catholic Church and says, this is a pretty effective organization. They've been good at what they do for 450 years. Maybe we should look at how they train their managers. This is not a religious discussion. It's like, let's look at this as an organization. How do they train their guys? Because what happened to them was they broke the paradigm. Okay? Up until that time, Christianity did business by get all your guys together, go in a monastery, hang out all day, don't do anything, just pray, make the wine, transcribe books. That'd be good. That's a good life. So Ignatius Loyola and 10 other guys from the University of Paris say, now this is what we're going to do. We're going to send you guys out in the world. So they did a really good job of attracting guys to do this. And they at one point in time, they educated 25% of the world and had no experience in education. So they led the league, basically, in, interacting with people, and they led the lead in being martyred. That met a lot of people that weren't into what they were doing. Right? So this is how they trained them. And this is what we look at when we look at just you as an individual Number one is self-awareness. Who are you? What are your strengths? The athletic deal is, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? Okay? Well, you tell me, what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses? What do you need to work on? Not everybody's okay, especially when you're like 15. Okay? You don't have it figured out. The second one, I think personally, is one of the most important things we need to teach. Ingenuity. Figure it out. You know, Rich is talking to me about, I spent a lot of time at the Naval Academy. Guys would graduate and they become TAD ensigns, which means they did nothing. You paid them, by the way. So I would ask them to do something. Go figure out what this guy, take this guy to medical. Well, coach, what's medical? We just educated you. Your country just spent $180,000 on 4-year education. You can't figure out what medical is? Don't ask me stupid questions. Okay? Don't ask me stupid questions. Figure it out. Figure out a way to do it. You can do this with your team, by the way. You can just give them a problem and say, figure it out. It enhances ingenuity. Right? Courage. Somebody said to me about Brendan Williams, and he was fearless. I am telling you, no one is fearless. No one is fearless. We're all afraid. I spent a lot of time at both service academies teaching boxing. And they go, so, you know, you just like having to beat the crap out of each other. No, that's not what we do. Right? We teach the concept of courage. Because when two individuals stand across from each other with boxing gloves on in a ring with no referee and no timeouts, it's all on you. Every single person in that situation experiences a level of fear. And it manifests itself in several ways. So what's the purpose of boxing? You know, a lot of people, it's barbaric. You know, the reality is very few people got hurt in boxing. But why did we do it? Because it's the only place at the National Service Academies you have to stand across from an individual, okay, evaluate their skills, know your skills, formulate a plan of attack, and execute the plan of attack in an environment where you could be injured and there's fear and anxiety. That's a beneficial skill for all of us. That's why we teach it. All right? So when we do conditioning, we try to do that. We try to put them in that situation. I read Muhammad Ali's book. Okay? Muhammad Ali wrote a book. It was called Ali. He didn't write it. He talked to somebody else who wrote it. And he's describing boxing Joe Frazier in Manila. And he's talking in the first person. All right? I'm sorry, it was formal. He's talking in the first person. And he's saying, George is cutting the ring off better than anybody that's ever done that I've boxed. He's more athletic than I thought. He's tough. Right? So Ali didn't come up with the strategy rope-a-dope until that moment. Ingenuity. I can't survive boxing the way I thought I was going to box. Right? I have to do something else. I'm going to lay back. It's hot. George is a big guy. And he describes feeling the punches on his arms and on his head. And he also describes the point where he fell into the room where lizards play saxophones. That's the way he described it. Right? And when he got into the room, he knew he had to hold on. And then in the later rounds, he's describing like, I can start to see him again. I can see his eyes. Right? I can see the punches. The punches aren't as hard. And I feel his weakness. And I know right now I have to attack. And he attacks George Foreman and he says, I know that George is going in the room. I know he's never been there. And if he realizes he comes out, he can come out, I'm going to lose. I have to knock him out now. One of the things we've always tried to do in conditioning is take our guys into the room and prove to them they can come out. That creates strength. That doesn't have to be in conditioning. It could be in any endeavor that you want to do it. Take your people into the room. Because every time they come out, they gain strength. That kid in the boxing ring, if he survives, he gains strength. Okay? That's another thing that we try to do to develop leadership. The last thing is love. There's nothing I've ever read about leadership, you know, when I was exposed to nothing, where love is not involved. Love and compassion. So you're the leader. You're the leader of your team. Right? I'm the leader of my team. You got to love your kids. Sometimes that means you got to suspend them. Sometimes that means you got to be hard on them. But you got to love them, and they will know. Okay? They will know. Right? So, loyalty, standards, and action individually to develop an individual, self-awareness, ingenuity, courage, and love. Teach it. I don't have to like. It's what it is. We know how to teach. You guys are teachers. Teach it. Can I have the other slide, please? So this is how we define leadership. We have 5 pillars. Okay, and I can get this to you. There's your love right there. Compassion, character, commitment, competence, courage. All right, there they are again. So the only 2, compassion individually, a teammate has to have compassion for a teammate. Okay? Not criticism. We don't have teammates criticize teammates. We have teammates counsel teammates in a leadership environment. Okay? Rules that govern that interaction involve the initiating person understanding the person they're talking to. The initiating person listening after they initiate. Total objectivity. It's an objective discussion. What's the standard? Why am I talking to you? What happened? I had a bad day at class and forgot. Okay, fine. Pull your socks down. Okay? This is bullshit. That's not going to make me a better player. Go talk. Character is at that moment, you tell the truth. Even though there's going to be consequences, you tell the truth. You know, it's an interesting thing at the Naval Academy. You know, it used to be you don't lie, cheat, or steal. It used to be there was no tolerance for any of that stuff. You were thrown out immediately. And then what happened was the institutions made the requirement. Everybody wasn't brought up in 1950 and 1960. You know, everybody's parents weren't World War II era people. So kids actually haven't been taught not to lie. A lot of kids have been taught, hey, get out of it, right? So the accountability and responsibility part kind of has to be taught, and that's where judgment comes in. When do you decide enough is enough? Because it's a very difficult decision. I've always struggled with it. When do you cut a guy loose? All right, when you say, look, we're at the end here. And in my situation, I've always felt philosophically, I may cut you loose, but I'm going to give you a pathway back. All right? Again, that's your decision. But compassion has to be part of it. You will not be successful as an organization. Your leadership will be compromised if character isn't part of what you talk about. That's my opinion. I don't have any research. I'm not really a research guy. I'm a sit in the room and shorts guy. All right? Commitment. What's commitment? Here's the other thing about the standards. The other thing that I talk to guys about a lot. You don't get this the way you want it, you get it the way it is. Okay? Going back to my boxing experience. You don't get to say, whoa, no, we're putting you two guys in the ring, you're facing off, there's no, we've taught you how to box, it's on. Can't call timeout in a boxing ring, there's nowhere to hide because they got ropes. And we're in there with you, but, they know I ain't stopping it. Okay? So you don't get that the way you want it. You get it the way it is. And again, a lot of kids, and I'm saying, a lot of kids you're dealing with at the high school level, and one of the great benefits you can do for the younger ones at your level is teach them that. This is where it is. Okay? This is the standard. If you don't do this, something will happen. If you try really hard, you still didn't meet the standard. Something will happen. Okay? And that's okay. You tried really hard. I would just compel you to think about this. When you think about trying really hard, when I hear that, I say you don't almost land on an aircraft carrier. You land. Right? Trying hard is just an element of participation. You're supposed to try hard. You're supposed to give your best. And then there's a standard. Does that make sense? And commitment is just a reflection of how important is it for you to meet the standard as an individual. Right? If the standards are too high, I did it yesterday. We're running around the field at the end. We took this different approach. We started practice last week, Monday, 2 days, no conditioning. They were like, the end of practice, stretch. So yesterday, last practice of the week, they were like, get on the line. I said, here's what we're going to do. We're going to run around 45 seconds. I mean, it was like hilarious, right? So all I wanted to do is get in that thing. I can't do it in 45 seconds. Let's make it 55 seconds, right? Here's the point. The point is when it was over, I said, guys, do we need to do conditioning? So instead of coming out, starting our relationship that way, we started out talking about lacrosse. Technical skills, tactical skills, and then some personal stuff that we talk about all year. Where's the conditioning? Friday goes, surprise. Here we go. And I can just see it like, oh shit, here we go. Because we're not, you know, we value conditioning. So I guess what I should say. All right? And there's two parts of courage. There's physical courage, which is contagious. We talked about this all the time. You know, the Packers quarterback don't play hurt this week. That will inspire his men. Whether or not he gets it done, we don't know. Dallas is going to try to uninspire him with great enthusiasm. He's going to play hurt. If he does well, great. If he doesn't, no one's going to care he was hurt. He just didn't play well. Right? So this is how we try to develop leadership. The other one was how we try to develop individuals. And the other one was more of a team concept. Right? Here's what I would suggest. Think about it. Use your ingenuity, like everything else. Apply it to your situation. Okay? I very much appreciate being here. I hope it was beneficial. If anybody has any questions, I'll be happy to answer them. Yes. What's that?
So there are 2 parts of courage.
2 parts of courage.
Yes, there are 2 parts of courage.
Physical and moral. Moral courage. Being willing to do the right thing. Under consequence. I didn't mention this. So at the Naval Academy during that transition, guys would come in and the policy was, if you lied in the beginning, just keep lying. Because if you ever say you lied, they're going to throw you out. Right? And guys would do that. That was, you know, it doesn't take, midshipmen are pretty smart people. Sort of cadets, by the way. But then, what started to happen was guys would say, no, I lied. And if you showed remorse immediately, there might be mercy. And in several cases there were, because what was recognized is people can make a mistake. And, you know, I had some statistic. I think everybody in the world lies now. And the reason they lie is because what a lot of people are taught is the bottom line. I got out of it. Well, how'd it go? I got out of it. Did you lie? That doesn't matter. You got out of it. So we're dealing with some of that now on the athletic field. Okay? Anybody else? Okay, thank you very much.